All right, everybody, hello and welcome to Lab 3, Descriptive Statistics. This lab will be taking place in Excel, so we've sort of bounced around a little bit from Excel to SPSS, now we're back to Excel. So we're going to do a few different things here in Excel. We are going to enter data in Excel, more data than we previously practiced with. We're going to use formulas in Excel to calculate descriptive statistics. Excel is basically a big calculator, right? So we're going to use many of the functions here to take a look at some data. And then we're going to make some graphs, all right? We're going to graph some data so we have some data visualization. So for our research scenario, we're going to take a look, all right? This is all, of course, hypothetical. But let's say that you're conducting a survey or a study on gaming behavior. You are particularly interested in how gaming impacts a number of psychological variables. Your hypothesis states that gamers have higher hand-eye coordination as well as higher problem-solving abilities. Let's say you collect data on 20 college students, 10 of them are gamers, 10 of them are non-gamers. All right, so out the gate here, we have one variable of interest. We are interested in if people are gamers, all right? That's something that can vary. In this case, we're saying you either are or are not in this gaming category. So you also measure two different variables. You measure hand-eye coordination, all right? That was one of your dependent variables or outcome variables of interest. We're gonna measure this in minutes, all right? Minutes it takes to complete a task. They're allotted up to 15 minutes to complete the task. If they do not complete it, their time is recorded as 15 minutes. All right. You also have participants complete an abstract puzzle to measure their problem-solving ability. They have 5 minutes to complete this task. They either pass or fail this task. All right, so this is to get us thinking about different types of data. We talked about types of data in a previous topic in class. We can have data that is categorical or qualitative. We can also have data that is quantitative, right, or uses numbers. So we have a few different types here. So let's talk a little bit about data entry. All right, we're going to start by entering a participant number. Participant number. All right, remember if your cell is small and not showing you all of the text here, you can double click, all right, to auto-fit the cell size. And we're going to do something that we've done before. We're going to auto-fill in 20 values here because we have 20 participants. So you want to click on the Fill button. So if my Excel window was bigger, all right, if it was bigger, all right, even bigger than that. All right, the Fill button would be right here. It looks like this. That's what I have in the screenshot. But if you're working with a smaller window of Excel, it will collapse it into this Editing tab. So editing, fill, series. All right, we want to fill in a series of values in a column. All right, we want values 1 through 20. Go ahead and press OK, and it populates all 20 values here for us. All right, that is wonderful. All right, so next we want to include some of our other variables. I have some information here about inputting the rest of our columns of information. The first will be the gamer column. This is how we will distinguish which participants are gamers and which are not. Then we'll also have a column for hand-eye coordination. I'll abbreviate as HEC. And then for the problem-solving variable. So we will have these 4 columns. And then I mentioned here that we're going to code the data. All right, the data will be coded. So you might think, right, that we could go in here and write gamer. All right, see, I'm already misspelling, non-gamer. All right, you could do this, but much more simply, you can assign codes to these 2 categories. So for example, if someone's a gamer, we can give them a 1. If someone is a non-gamer, we can give them a 0. So I'm going to go ahead and put in some of these values here. All right, 6, 7, 8. All right, I'm already off it seems. All right, please hold. Let me get these values in here correctly. We have a 1. We have 2 zeros. We have a 1, a 0, a 1, a 1, a 0, a 1. All right, on to 10. We have 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, okay? Something like this. So what this is telling us is that participant 1 is a gamer, all right? Participant 2 is not a gamer. 1 means they are, 0 means they are not. This is a very common coding strategy for binary variables or dichotomous variables or binomial variables, whatever name you want to give it. And whenever you have two options for a variable, it's very commonplace to give them zeros and ones. It's our simplest reduction of categories to two integers. All right, so next we have hand-eye coordination and probability or problem-solving scores. I see my statistics brain always sees prob as probability, but here we have problem solving. So I'll go ahead and put in these hand-eye coordination scores as well. Just make sure that you take your time inputting the data so you don't have any mistakes. All right. All right, almost there. There we go. Remember, this is time in minutes. All right, so we're not giving these codes. We're just reporting these as the time in minutes it took somebody to complete the task. As opposed to here, we only have two options. All right, think of this as like a yes or no question, right? There are only two outcomes for this variable. And same for problem solving, right? For problem solving, we have either they pass, all right? We'll use a 1 to indicate pass, and 0 if they failed. All right, so remember at the end of the day here, what we're really looking for is if there are differences between our gamer and non-gamer groups, right? That was your hypothesis, that gamers would have different hand-eye coordination scores and that they would be more likely to pass this problem-solving task. All right, so once your data is in, we're going to sort the data, all right? We're going to sort all of the data. So what we'll do is we'll click on the first cell we want included, hold Shift, and click down to the last cell that we want included. Or we can hold Shift and use the arrow keys to select the area that we want to include in our sort. All right, so we can do this a couple different ways as well. There is a sort function. All right, here on the home page. All right, you can sort here and do a custom sort, or you can go to Data and Sort. All right, so in this case, what we want to sort by is the gamer group. All right, we want to sort by smallest to largest on the gamer group. All right, I show you all of this here. So basically what this will do is it will group our non-gamers together, right? Everybody with a code of 0, and all of our gamers together, everybody with a code of 1. So notice that it has scrambled up our participant numbers. That is okay. All right, that is similar to Lab 1 in the way that it scrambles our participant numbers when we do a sort. It just means now that we have all of participant 2's data right here. So participant 2 is not a gamer. It took them 10 minutes to complete the hand-eye coordination task, and they did not pass the problem-solving task. All right, participant number 3 is not a gamer. It took them 12 minutes to complete the task, and they did pass the problem-solving task. All right, then if we get down here, all right, where we get to the gamer group, remember gamers have 1s in this column, we can see these participants as well, right? This is the first participant that we had taken a look at. So the next thing that I have you do here is create a little bit of space in between the two groups. So you can do that by highlighting this entire row, the row where the two parties separate here, and clicking Insert. All right, and we'll do that just a few times. I'll do it 3 more times, so we have 4 rows in between to work with. All right, so now we have a block of data that is non-gamers and a block of data that belongs to gamers. All right, so the next thing that we want to do is run some formulas on this data. So in Excel, we can write basic formulas. Excel works a little bit like a calculator. So what we'll do here is first we just want to get a sum of or a count of how many participants we have in each group. So to create a formula, you start with an equal sign and then you type in what you want to do. We're just going to do a count. Then you put in an open parenthesis. All right, then in this open parenthesis, it's asking you for which data you want included in this function. So you can do one of two things. You can hold Shift and click the range of data that you want included. It will say here we're selecting cells A2 through A11. All right, we can press enter, and it will count how many values we have. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 values. All right, it counted to 10. We can also do equals count parentheses and then manually write in the cell range that we need. So we can do A2 and then a colon all the way to A11 and parenthesis and enter. All right, I'll also have you insert an extra column here so that you can label this new value. All right, I did that by clicking on the A column, right-clicking, and then selecting insert. All right, so we have an extra column, just the same way that we added rows by clicking here and then right-clicking to insert. All right, so that's our first basic formula, and we can use formulas for a variety of different things. Why don't we get an average of hand-eye coordination? So we can write equals average, okay, open parenthesis, shift and select the scores and press enter, and then we have an average. So this tells us that on average, non-gamers took 10.8 minutes to complete the hand-eye coordination task. All right, and that's some pretty good info for us. All right, and then next what we want to do is get a sum score. We want to get a sum score to know how many of these 10 non-gamers passed the problem-solving task. So same thing, we do equals sum parenthesis and then include the data here. All right, so only 2 individuals passed the task. All right, so I'll go ahead and label this sum. Only 2 individuals passed the task. All right, so that's good to know. We're ultimately going to compare this to the gamer group, all right? So hang tight for some comparisons. But the next thing that we're going to do is calculate a percentage in Excel. All right, so Excel works in such a way that you can type in certain functions to complete, right? Like you can type in an average. All right, there are lots of different things that we can type in. We can do sum, we can do standard deviation. But let's go ahead and make our own formula. So we learned, right, when we did frequency tables and histograms that we can calculate a percentage by taking frequency over n, right, or frequency over total number of values, and then multiply by 100. So if we want to know what percentage of the non-gamer group passed this task, we can take the number of successful outcomes divided by all outcomes, right? So I'm just clicking on the cells here. All right, I'm also going to put these into parentheses. Of course it will complain at me. Let me go ahead and start fresh here. All right, parentheses, the cell where we got the sum, the total number of those who passed the task, divided by how many we have in this group. And then we'll multiply. You can do multiplication using the asterisk. All right, so shift 8 by 100. If you press enter, we can see that 20% of the non-gamers passed the problem-solving task. All right. The last thing I have you do in this section is bold these labels here. All right, and then we're about to do some magic, okay? We can do something really neat here. If we copy, all right, these cells that include these calculations, all right, we can go ahead and paste them in here. All right, and notice something interesting here. All right, notice that the sums, all right, or the calculations here have automatically detected which cells to include in the calculation. All right, so we copied here the count for cell B2 to B11, but when we copied it, it automatically changed it to count the top 10 cells above it. That's because Excel is pretty smart. All right, it can predict in some ways what it wants you to do. So if we take a look here, right, it got a different average, okay, for hand-eye coordination, and it summed up here. We can even check here to make sure it's correct, right? If we count how many passes, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, all right, and that's what it counted here, and it also calculated percent for you. So 80% of those in the gamer group passed the problem-solving task. All right. Well, look at us go, all right? It should look something like this, all right? This should be what you have. Make sure that you are including your calculations, right, or your formulas in these cells. All right, so our next step is making graphs of this data. You're going to make 2 graphs. I will show you how to make one of them. All right, so now that you have your values for the groups, we want to visually compare them. So we're going to make something called a summary table. So we want to compare our gamers to our non-gamers, all right? So let's compare them. Let's compare their average hand-eye coordination scores. All right, so this is our non-gamer group. The non-gamers scored, all right, an average of 10.8 minutes on this task. All right, and then our gamers scored an average of 7.3 minutes on this task. Remember, the quicker they complete the task, the better their hand-eye coordination. So if we highlight these values, okay, we're making what's called a summary table. So if we highlight these values and we go to insert, all right, and of course I have everything highlighted over here. If we insert a graph, okay, here's a graph, we have a little bit of a visualization, right, of the differences in our data. So I'll have you work a little bit with editing these graphs. Once you have selected the graph, you'll have an option up here called Add Chart Element, where you can add different pieces to the chart. So for example, one thing I'll have you do is delete the chart title. It seems a little bit odd, but APA and psychologists don't include chart titles. We include captions on our charts. But more importantly, what I'll have you do is label your axes, all right, to describe what's going on here. All right, so here we have gaming behavior. And then if we add a vertical axis, all right, add another axis here. Let's call this hand-eye coordination scores. All right, so then at a glance, all right, we've taken a whole cluster of information here and we've consolidated it by coming up with some descriptive statistics. And then additionally, right, we can visualize those differences in the data. All right, so there's a graph for us. I have you create one more graph, all right, but I'll let you come up with that one a little bit more on your own here. The other graph will compare percentages, all right, because this is a different type of data. This isn't comparing averages, this is comparing something a little bit different. So you'll want to compare gamers and non-gamers and the percentage of those who passed their task. So you'll put those percentages in another summary table. And then I have a few more instructions here about how to, say, edit the range on your y-axis. If you double click, you can change the range. All right, maybe we want to make this only go to, let's see, maybe we only want this to go to 11. All right, then we can take a look and see how it changes the range. But I'll have you change the range for the percentage graph. But again, I'll leave that to you. So just a few other things here, all right? You can have fun with making your graphs, all right? You can change the colors on your graph. You can go with a different colorway. If you double click on really any portion of the graph, it will give you some options to edit it. So it can be fun to go in here and sort of make some changes. You can select just one of these bars to change the color. You can get a little crazy with it, right? You can do different colors and textures. Of course, none of which is necessary, but it can be a little bit fun, huh? So go ahead and just give this a try. All right, you get more comfortable with Excel the more that you use it. So it's definitely to your benefit to get in here and play with some of these options so you know what's available to you. So that's all for this one. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on our next recording.